Hey, Tom Bartels from GrowFoodWell.com. And I just wanted to talk briefly about a ritual that I've enjoyed during the solstice, which is today, that became even more meaningful this year during our collective struggle of the economic and political and pandemic challenges that we all face this year. So for the past several years, actually, I've come out during the solstice and tended to my seeds that I saved the previous year that I typically would hang up for drying in the garage during the fall harvest time when everything's pretty busy, and then I'd forget them for months and they'd just sit in the garage and they didn't really need to be tended to. But the solstice is a great time to come back and reconnect with what seeds are here and go ahead and process them and clean them, label them, get them ready for the planting season next year. And I find it particularly meaningful because reconnecting with all these seeds, I have about maybe 30 different types of seeds here in the garage right now, and some more in the root cellar that I didn't bring out. But it reminds me, it's a grounding experience to be connected with these natural cycles that are connected to these larger systems, like, you know, the Earth going around the sun, etc., and having this longest night tonight that is such an ancient ritualized day for people all over the world, that for thousands of years the solstice had this deep meaning to find out and check in with everybody. Do we have enough food, first of all, to get through the rest of the winter, because it's hard to get more food in the middle of the winter. So it had some deeper meaning then when people were struggling just to get through another season, and for thousands of years, based on their skill set and understanding of how to grow food and save food and process stuff for the next year, how to keep people alive through multiple generations. Now, we don't deal with that kind of struggle. It's a little less struggle. I mean, this year is quite a significant struggle for a lot of people, but it's a little different than we used to have for thousands of years. But what's really grounding is to at least get an understanding of those old methods that you can use to grow some of your own food, and then come out on the solstice and realize that all these seeds are going to help you grow food next spring. And not only are they free seeds for you to keep for following seasons planting, but they're actually acclimatized to your particular region more than any other seeds you could really get. So in my case, all these seeds are from plants that were healthy enough and strong enough to get to full maturity and set seeds. And that tells me that these seeds have the genetic traits that help these plants grow in our high desert environment at 6,500 feet of elevation and a very short growing season. So the genetics of these plants improve every year as I keep saving these seeds. They become even more acclimatized for this particular region. And so that's fun to be part of that process and get in sync with those natural cycles as we go through the year. And so for me, cleaning seeds and getting a stock of what we have for next season's planting is a very calming and grounding experience to know how to interact with these seeds and be a participant in those cycles. And so the solstice is a great day to come out and check on the seeds. So let me give you a couple of different examples here just to show you what I'll be dealing with today. But this is an example of lettuce seed. There's about 4 different types of lettuce in here, and they're all in the set in flower right now, so I have to clean the flowers and get those seeds separated. So here's a Italian leaf broccoli that sets a very nice seed set, but I'm just going to crunch those in a box and then separate them with a seed screen. I've got coriander in here from our cilantro plant. Here's another bag of that. If you are used to seeing coriander, it's a really great herb that comes off the cilantro plant. It's a wonderful smell, very signature smell. I've got over here, those of you that are in the program recognize orac, no doubt. It's a really good spinach substitute that I talk about all the time. And it doesn't bolt like spinach, but boy, when it does, eventually, it puts on copious amounts of seed. And so I've got 2 bags of these. This is enough for about a 1/4 acre of orac. Here's several different types of beans. These are field bush beans, and I'll be breaking those open and separating those in a real simple box. These are called mortgage lifters, and the reason they're called mortgage lifters, I'll go ahead and open this for you, is because the beans are so huge. They're a really large white bean. It's got a really nutty flavor, and the mortgage lifters because they grow so prolifically in such great quantities and size that the farmers that grew them could pay off their mortgage. That's where their name comes from. Nasturtiums, I don't know if you know, but nasturtiums put off a lot of seed if they're really happy and healthy. And here's what nasturtium seeds look like. So I've got enough for about 100 plants next year. And of course, all these are free. It's just a matter of knowing how to save them and how to get those plants to get to full maturity so you can get the seeds. Here's, for instance, I've got my work cut out for me on these pole beans here. This is a full bin full of pole beans, and I'll be crunching those in a wooden box just with my feet, which makes a really easy way to separate your beans from the chaff. Of course, I've got dill and several different flowers that are saved. Here's arugula seed. Oh, and these are a wonderful bean. This is called a Hopi black and white. Let me clean some of that off so you can see it. These are Hopi black and white, and that's a bean that's been grown here in the Southwest for about 1,000 years. They're just a beautiful, beautiful bean. So I'll be separating that and getting enough to plant out this season, plus having a lot to eat for the next few months from the garden. Plus I've got that whole bin of Hopi blue corn that I have to shell to get the kernels off and get them stored for cornmeal pancakes this winter and have plenty for planting out next spring. And here was that fun experiment I did with einkorn. It's an ancient wheat variety that I grew out, and I'll be making some sourdough bread with that later on. I've got a whole bin of that over here that still needs to be cleaned. This is the uncleaned chaff with the wheat itself. So I'm probably going to have, maybe 5 or 6 loaves of bread and plenty to grow out next year if I want to save more seed or more grain for the einkorn crop there. But so this is just a sampling of some of the seeds and the stuff I'll be messing with today. But it's also an invitation for those of you that might have some seeds or seed pods or plants that you saved last fall that are drying somewhere, to go out on the solstice and reconnect with those, because it helps to remind you to look toward the light in the coming planting season, and it makes you feel better. It really is a great thing to do on the solstice. Plus you get to take stock of what seeds you do have to know what you need to buy maybe before the next spring's planting. And a quick side note on that is that if you're planning on buying seeds this year, buying them now rather than later is probably a good idea, because I think the seed companies are probably going to have some more problems supplying all the seeds, because they were under a lot of pressure last year, and I think they're going to have some trouble catching up again. So you might want to go ahead and get your seeds now. And that's why taking stock on what seeds you do have is an important thing to do right now as well. So if you have some seeds in your garage, your basement, your greenhouse, or somewhere, use the solstice as a day to reconnect with those seeds and figure out how you're going to get through the rest of the winter and get to that planting season to come. So happy solstice to you from Colorado. Cheers. And I hope you growers who have grown some of your own food and stored it for the winter get to enjoy it this holiday season, because there is nothing that tastes better in the middle of the winter than some food that you grew yourself. Have a great holiday.